Hello folks, Prasad Domala here. In this video, I'll be showing you how to launch and connect to a Linux EC2 instance, which is the basic thing you'll be doing if you want to get started with AWS. You can launch an instance from AWS Management Console or AWS CLI, that is command line interface, or from AWS API using SDKs. And there are SDKs available for most of the popular programming languages. We'll be using AWS Management Console in our demo today, and I'll post another video on how to launch EC2 using AWS CLI. Just to brief you about EC2, EC2 is an elastic compute cloud service provided by AWS, and you will be able to create scalable and reliable instances suitable for any type of workload on AWS. Today we'll be creating a basic T2 micro instance which will fall under the free tier so that you will not be charged, and you will be eligible for 12 months of AWS free tier once you sign up. Coming to the prerequisites, you'll need an AWS account and any SSH client of your choice to connect to the instance, and you obviously need an internet connection to log into AWS Management Console. Now let's see the basic architecture diagram of our EC2 instance. So the outermost layer is the AWS cloud, inside which we have AWS region. In our demo, I'll be using Asia Pacific, Sydney region. And inside the region, we have our default VPC, which contains a public subnet. And we'll be launching our instance inside the public subnet. And a security group is assigned to our instance, which acts as a virtual firewall. Our subnet routes traffic to the internet gateway through a routing table, which will allow us to access the instance from internet using a private key. And we'll be using general purpose SSD EBS volume as our root volume. Now let's start the process of launching our EC2 instance. So first let's log into AWS Management Console. I already have my account created, and this is the URL of my account, which is pdomala.signin.aws.amazon.com/console. You can either use the root account to log in or create individual IAM users to log into the console. I'm using my individual IAM user to log in, which is always best practice instead of using your root account. So this is my account name, then my username is Prasad, and then my password. Once logged in, the first thing you need to do is to select the region where you need to create your AWS resources. I'm selecting my region as Sydney. It always makes sense to select a location closer to you to reduce latency issues. This is the home screen of AWS Management Console, and you can see all the services provided by AWS grouped into sections. So the section of our interest today is the compute section. So select EC2 under compute section, and you will be taken to EC2 dashboard. So this is the EC2 dashboard. So on the dashboard, you will see the statistics of your resources like running instances, key pairs, volumes, snapshots, load balancers, and so on. On the left hand side, you will see different links to create and manage different resources specific to EC2. So I'll not go into specific details of these resources in this video, and let's start launching our instance. So click on the launch instance button here, which will take you to the step-by-step launch wizard. First step is to select the AMI. AMI is nothing but Amazon machine image. So you can treat AMI as a template which contains predefined resources like the operating system, applications, web servers, application servers, and so on. So you can build your own AMIs with all the software and configurations pre-installed, and you can use those AMI to launch as many EC2 instances as you need with exact same software and configuration. So it basically speeds up the process of launching identical and consistent instances using AMIs. So for this demo, I'm selecting Amazon Linux AMI, which is the first one in the list here. Make sure it's free tier eligible if you don't want to get charged. So select this. Next, we need to select the instance type. As of recording this video, there are around 6 instance categories and 50 instance types. So you have a wide range of choice to choose an instance suitable for your requirements and workloads. So Amazon will be continuously adding or changing these instance types. So it's always better to have a look at AWS website to know about the latest instance offerings of AWS. So I'll leave the link in the description. So for this demo, I'll choose a T2 micro instance, which is free tier eligible and comes with one virtual CPU and 1 GB of memory. And it supports EBS instance storage. So select the instance type and click configure instance details. Next, we need to configure our instance details. So first you need to select the number of instances you need. So I'll leave it as the default, which is 1. Next, we have purchasing option. We have different purchase options like reserved, on-demand, and spot instances. In our demo, we'll be using on-demand instance, so do not check this box. Next, we have network related details. So whenever you sign up for AWS account, a default VPC will be created for your account. VPC is nothing but virtual private cloud, and it is a logical grouping of your network resources. So I'm going ahead with the default VPC. Then we have subnet or availability zone. So it's the best practice to allow AWS to choose the availability zone or the subnet. Next, you need to allow auto assign public IP so that we can connect to this instance from internet. So I'll leave this as a default setting, which is enable. Next, we have an IAM role. You can assign an IAM role to EC2 instances to allow them to connect to various AWS services like RDS, S3, CloudWatch, and so on. So for this demo, I'm not selecting any role, as I'll not be connecting to any other services from this instance. As you can see, I have a couple of roles already created here, but for this demo, I'll keep it as none. Next, we need to specify the shutdown behavior. This is the shutdown behavior initiated from the OS. You can either choose to stop the instance or terminate the instance when you issue a shutdown command from within the OS. So I'll leave it as stop for this demo. Next, we have an option to enable termination protection. So this option will protect your instance from accidental termination from AWS Management Console or AWS CLI. So the instance cannot be terminated until you turn off this protection. So if you want to protect your instance from getting terminated accidentally, you can just check this checkbox. Next, we have an option to enable detailed monitoring, and do remember that additional charges might apply if you enable detailed monitoring. So basic monitoring is enabled by default, and it will give you metrics on CPU, disk utilization, and network activity in 5-minute intervals. So I'm not enabling detailed monitoring for this demo. Next, we have tenancy options. We have shared, dedicated, and dedicated host. So shared instance will run on a shared hardware instance, and dedicated instance will have its own dedicated instance, and dedicated host will be launched on a dedicated physical host. So for this demo, I'll just select shared, which will be running on shared hardware instance. Next, we have advanced section where we have user data. So in this section, you can provide bootstrap script, which will be executed after instance creation. This will be extremely helpful if you want to perform some installation or configurations, as soon as the instance is launched. So it will be helpful in creating auto scaling groups as well. So once you are happy with these instance details, you can click on add storage. On the add storage page, you have a root volume added by default with 8 GB of storage. The volume type is general purpose SSD. You have an option to specify whether this volume will be deleted or not when the instance is terminated. By default, this EBS volume will be deleted when the instance is terminated. So if you don't want this behavior, you can uncheck this checkbox here. You can add any additional EBS volumes if required. So EBS is nothing but Elastic Block Store, which is a virtual disk which can be attached or detached from an EC2 instance. So once you are happy with the disk or storage, you can click on add tags. So tags are key value pairs used to identify your instance. So these tags will be useful in billing reports where you can group the cost based on tags. So I'll just add one tag with a key as say for example instance name, and I'll give value as my EC2 instance. You can add up to 50 tags for each instance. So once you're happy with the tags, you can click on configure security group. Security group is a virtual firewall which can be applied at instance level. So you can allow inbound and outbound connections to the instance on specific ports based on your requirements. For this demo, I'll just allow inbound connection on port 22, which is required to connect to this instance using SSH. So I'll just select create new security group here, and I'll just name my security group as SG_SSH, say for example, and you can provide some description. I'll just copy the name. So next you can add rules as per your requirement. So by default SSH is already added, so the type is SSH and the protocol is TCP and the port is 22. And for source you have three options: custom, anywhere, and my IP. So if you specify custom, you can specify the IP range using CIDR notation. If you select anywhere, you can access this instance from anywhere on the internet. And you can specify my IP, which will allow only your IP to access this particular instance. For this demo, I'll just select as custom, and then I'll give a CIDR notation as 0.0.0.0/0, that is all IPs. Okay, so you can add additional rules if required, like say for example if you want to allow HTTP traffic to this particular instance because you are running Apache web server or something. So you can select HTTP from here, and then the default port is 80, and then you can specify from where you want to allow HTTP. So once you are happy with the rules, you can click review on launch. So this is the review page where you can verify and change the configuration if required. And once you are happy with the config, you can click on launch. Next, you will be prompted to choose a key pair. So by default, Linux instances will not have a password to log into SSH, and we need to use a key pair to connect to the instance using SSH. So when the instance is created, a public key will be added to the instance, and we should be having the respective private key to connect to the instance using any SSH client. So if you're using the console for the first time, you might not have any key pairs created. So if you select choose an existing key pair, nothing will be found here. So you can select create a new key pair here, and then you can provide a name for your key pair. So I'll just call it as my Sydney key pair, and then make sure you download this key pair and keep it in a safe location, because if you lose this key pair, you will not be able to restore it, and you might need to create a new key pair again. So let me download my key pair. So once you have the key pair downloaded, you can click on launch instances. So this is the launch status page where you can see that the launching process is started. So you can click on view instances here to check the progress. So as you can see, the instance state is still pending. So our instance is getting created now. So wait for the instance to transition into running state. So it might take a couple of minutes to get into running state. As you can see, our instance is in running state now, and we can see the public IP assigned to our instance. So you can use this IP to connect to our newly created instance using any SSH client. I'm using MobiXterm as my SSH client here. So you can use any client of your choice, like PuTTY or something. You should have your key pair path handy. So to connect to the instance, you need to use SSH-I, that is nothing but input, and then you need to provide the path of your PEM file, which is your key pair, which you have downloaded from the console, and then the username. So the default username for Amazon Linux AMI is EC2-user, and then @ your IP address. So let me copy the IP from the console, which is this one, 13.55.180.53. Okay. So if everything is configured correctly, you should be logged into your new EC2 instance. So you can treat it as a regular Linux server and configure all your software and applications on this particular instance. So as you can see, we have a Linux operating system, and it's 64-bit operating system. Make sure you terminate the instances when you are not using them to avoid any billing surprises from AWS. So to terminate the instances, you can get back to the AWS Management Console and select your instance here. And then from the actions drop down, and then instance state, and then you can click on terminate here. So it'll give you a little warning. You can just click on S terminate, and then the termination process will start. It'll shut down the instance first, and then will terminate the instance. And that's it. You now know how to launch a basic EC2 instance from AWS Management Console. I'll be posting more videos on AWS regularly, so make sure you subscribe to my channel and a blog. So you'll have the links in the description below. And do not hesitate to post in the comments if you have any questions or suggestions. I'll try to reply them as soon as I can. Also have a look at my blog on this topic for step-by-step instructions and screenshots. And I guess that's it for today. Hope you liked the video. Have a good day and see you in the next one.